Awesome. So today's session I want to share with you is how do we disrupt the legacy curriculum in a lot of institutions today. And what that means is how do we think about building digital skills into the curriculum that we provide a lot of our students. I will predominantly be focusing on upper secondary higher education. I know there was a session on Minecraft earlier. I'm not sure if that was still on, but happy to talk to Minecraft at the end if anyone wants to know more about Minecraft as well. So for us, I think when I think about future-ready skills, or the way that we think about it, it's really thinking, how do we ensure that every person on the planet, whether you have accessibility needs, you're a student, you're a doctor, you're a healthcare worker, you're an elderly person, just everyone really, how do we provide them the skills, the knowledge and opportunity to succeed in today's digital economy? I have my mom and dad, they really struggle to use the internet, Google, whatever it is. And so even for them, it's really learning the basic digital skills so that they can do things more easily in their day-to-day as well. And I think hopefully what I'll be able to share with you today is really how do we take it to the next level for students in particular. So I want to cover off technical skills and why I believe they're more important than ever. And the first one really is pretty obvious to me, which is there's going to be 6.2 million job openings based on cloud technology by next year. So that to me is astounding. And the pace of that is just, it's mind-blowing really when you think of this pandemic and how many businesses have had to adapt, and also how many education institutes have also had to adapt to remote learning and the way that they do things. So that has only really created more potential opportunity in the workplace that hopefully our future graduates can start to fulfill. The second one is employers are really struggling to find employees with the right technical skills to meet their organizational objectives. This one I know really well just from working with a lot of our partners in a previous role where they always said to me, we want to hire graduate talent, but they don't have the right technical skills. We spend a lot of money retraining and investing in them to have these skills, but how do we work with universities and vocational institutions to train these students before they even leave school? And that really sets them off on the right foot to be successful in their careers. And a recent study we did with IDC, they looked into this across students across the globe and employers as well. And what they identified is the same thing, that students who have relevant educational experience, especially around those industry technical skills, typically do better when they go into the workforce. They get promoted faster, they adapt faster, they learn faster, and that just generally makes them more successful across their career. Third, today's students want more than just a diploma. They want real-world skills that make them employable from the onset. And if we think about how much students pay for their student loans or their university degrees, it's astounding. And I'm sure many of them, if not all, go to university with the intention that after they leave, they have better opportunities in the workplace. So, how do we change how we offer education to really make it more valuable for our students in today's society? Fourth, departments and faculty have told us that they need the resources to actually deliver these technical courses. It takes them a lot of time and effort to develop the content. So how do they work with cloud organizations like Microsoft to adapt our curriculum and our content and teach them the actual platform and software that they're going to use in the future? And then lastly, employees highly value graduates with a degree plus an industry certification. And when I think about this one, it really is that if we look at developers today or business people or anyone who requires a technical background, a lot of them will have already started or have a few industry recognized certifications under their belt, whether that's with us or with AWS or Google or whoever. So employers really see that as students have taken the time to learn a cloud technology or a skill set and been able to pass those exams shows that they're qualified and being able to then put those skills to practice. So those are really the 5 key reasons I believe technical skills are more important than ever. So this one really is there's a lot happening on the slide, so I do apologize. But really what I've outlined here is everything as a company that we currently have on offer to really support students and educational institutions. I think of it really as Lego blocks or building blocks, that these are all bits of our toolkit that we have available to support you in whatever needs that you might have when it comes to skilling up students. So if we look from left to right, on the left, we really start with primary education, and our focus there is how do we spark curiosity with STEM, computer science, and give them purpose to learning? And that's what I mentioned with Minecraft earlier. It's really that first introduction maybe to coding, or getting them excited about how they might do a creative writing class using Minecraft, or learn about maths using Minecraft. So it's really putting that learning context for our students in an environment that they're very familiar with, and keeps them engaged, because we know that students who are engaged obviously learn faster and learn in a better environment. Second is our secondary education focus, and this is where we start to build on that STEM and computer science by extending it to productivity skills, and growing competency in new technology concepts. So when I talk about productivity skills, I'm really referring to our Microsoft Office suite of tools, right? Like your Excel, your PowerPoint, your Word. These are solutions that are still being used today. I mean, we're on Teams right now. I'm using PowerPoint to do this presentation. They're still solutions that many corporates and organizations and governments still use. So how do we equip students with these basic skills across MOS so they're able to just start work and start learning a lot easier as well? And when I talk about growing new technology concepts, this is where we start to introduce things like data and AI. You know, how can they understand or conceptualize artificial intelligence and make that applicable to solutions or problems they're trying to solve today? And I'll talk a little bit more about this one later on in the presentation, but this really is that introductory, and how do we look at things like fundamental certifications to get them introduced to cloud computing. And then lastly, in higher education, it's a massive emphasis on driving employability with role-based technical skilling. So how do we build on those core concepts and go deeper into advanced technology workloads? But also, how do we connect them with LinkedIn and with a solution like CareerCoach, really to get them promoting that they've got these skills, they've got this experience on LinkedIn, so that increases their employability as well. But also, how do we help them navigate the various careers that exist out there today, and how do we prepare them for careers that are yet to evolve into something? And that's what I'll touch on last with CareerCoach at the end as well. Cool. So the first, I guess, piece I want to talk about is Microsoft Learn, and we abbreviate it down to aMS Learn. So if you've never tried this before, it really is a website you can go to. I will preface it with, for me, this is the core of our skilling offer. Everything revolves around Microsoft Learn, and that's going to be our one-stop shop where students and professionals will go to learn content from beginner through to advanced. You can help students from all ages across all technologies that we have, but also just general concepts, which may not necessarily be Microsoft related, but more broad. Second, it's step-by-step bite-sized tutorials, so that keeps it engaging. You can gamify it, you earn badges, you earn points, and that just keeps it really engaging as well. And then learning paths, so all our learning paths are interactive, they have sample code, and you're able to test the products. So what I think about this is you're not only learning, let's say, about the Azure portal, but you're actually having to go into it, try different bits of code, test it out, actually experience the environment, and that just emphasizes the understanding that you can have around Azure. And what I'll show is actually I'll jump out of this and go to here. So this is the Microsoft Learn site. This one you can see has been tailored specifically for students and educators. So here, if you're a student, you can go directly and see that we've actually curated various learning paths that are suitable just for students. And you can see it here, we tag them as students, they're beginner, you can click on them, and it's very simple. And what I also love about this is there's learning paths that relate directly to a certification, or there's also individual modules you can learn. So you might learn about how to build a chatbot, and you actually do that through one of these learning paths. So it's super simple and easy to navigate. Then I'll just quickly show you this. Where is it? So here you can just see our portfolio of certifications. At the top, you can see role-based. These are actually growing. There's probably a few more that I've accidentally missed out. But above, you've got your expert and associate level. And then at the bottom, you can see we've got fundamentals across all our core solutions. And then underlying that really is our Microsoft Office Specialist exams. But I don't want to focus too much on the certifications, but actually call out a current offer we have to support anyone who's a displaced worker or a student, or maybe you're an educator. So let's say you wanted to sit the Azure Fundamentals exam. I'm a student, and okay, cool, I've found the site for this. And you can do that under certification or through the student pathway. And here you can see Microsoft Certified Azure Fundamentals. If I scroll to the bottom, you can already start the learning path that would prepare you to sit that certification. So if I just click on this link, you can start to see, great, new to cloud, here are some videos. These are the learning paths that are covered. So it's really an interactive mix of videos, practical aspects, and then starting to build basic things. And then when you're ready to sit the exam, you can go back to this page, click on the required exam. And what I want to emphasize here is the offer that we have available. So because obviously with COVID impacting so many students globally, you can actually schedule an exam for $15 US, which is significantly cheaper, as you can see, compared to our commercial offer. And I think we've got a portfolio of 10 or so exams that students can sit at this discounted rate. Great. I'll move on. Great, so I'll move on to Azure for Students. So this offer has actually been around for a very long time for us, but we currently have a commercial free offer where anyone can sign up with a free account and get access to Azure credits. However, we wanted to make an offer that's specifically designed for students. So that's where Azure for Students comes in. For students who are 18 and above, they get access to $100 of free Azure credit, free Azure services, developer tools, as well as learning pathways. And really all they have to do is verify their account using their academic email address. And I guess what I really love about this is you can basically try before you buy, especially as a student, right? And 100 credits does go a long way when you're thinking about building your own projects, or maybe you want to use your credit in the classroom on a classroom project or something like that. So we highly encourage students to get access to this. It's renewed every year that they're registered at an eligible institution. And so yeah, it's a really great offer. Cool. So just thinking back to what Rico said at the start, how do we think about supporting educators and schools around the curriculum piece? And this is probably the bit where it all comes together, the first few things I talked about, which is our Microsoft Learn for Educators program. So what this is, it's taken all these little bits across our offering and put them into a cohesive solution or program to really support educators and institutions. What it gives you is access to the training materials, the actual curriculum that Microsoft builds around our certifications. And this is all content that commercial learning partners or trainers actually pay to access. So, we recognize that education institutions are effectively skilled trainers and skilled educators. So we give this curriculum free to institutions in order for them to then teach this material to students as well in the classroom. So if I think about Microsoft Learn that I just showed you, that really is a lot of self-paced online learning content. So if you want to really take this into the classroom, we've got PowerPoint slides, we've got guides on how you incorporate it into your semester, how you incorporate it into your actual curriculum, so that you can teach the exact content for, let's say, Azure Fundamentals, but in a classroom environment to your students and prepare them for those certifications. A few other benefits is, as an educator, you get access to a free practice exam and a certification voucher, so you can actually get skilled up on the course or on the certification that you're hoping to teach your students. So yeah, that's that. And so I just want to highlight what that actually looks like across 3 different customers we've worked with in the past year, and how they've really brought this program into their school and brought it to life for their students. So the first one is in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong VTC is one of our customers that we work closely with. And they really wanted to basically attract recruiters for their students who are starting to skill up and get technical capabilities. So they thought, okay, well, how do we start incorporating Azure certifications and making it an option for students to sit those exams? And how do we help them get that edge when it comes to joining the workforce? And so through their classes, they leverage these new Azure skills to solve real-world problems. They're getting computers, and I'll give actually this is a really cool example where a student group thought, okay, well, how do we actually support students in underprivileged circumstances to get computers when they need them? So they actually built this solution called iShare donation platform using Azure Cognitive Services, which quickly matches donors and students and volunteers using AI. And this actual solution is actually getting a lot of support beyond this project to be built into a solution that people can actually use in the future. And I just think that's amazing. You know, they went, great, let's just teach them Azure skills and certification. But from that, students really realized, oh, wow, I can use Azure and build these things and do these things in my own accord and actually help somebody else in the world. So I think that's just such a powerful story of how you take it beyond the classroom. Great. And then the second example is in Japan. We have a school called GK Group. They're actually a vocational institution that has about 80 institutions underneath them, training students across the whole country of Japan, really. And they thought the same. You know, Japan as a government, the government has a directive to skill up as many students across artificial intelligence as possible, recognizing that they have a massive skills gap there in the country, and the education system just isn't up to where it needs to be to prepare these students for the jobs that are being released today and in the future. So GK Group really became a thought leader in this aspect where they said, okay, let's just go and do it. Let's build out a plan. Let's get certifications across every single vocational school, whether that's nursing, whether you're studying to be a chef, whatever it is, all our schools, every student will have a baseline understanding of artificial intelligence. And for this, they looked at our AI Fundamentals certification. So they purchased certifications to cover all their students, that every student had the opportunity to study for and achieve that certification during their schooling process. And for them, it's really not just about, great, you're getting technical capabilities. It's about the understanding of technology and how that can be applied to basically every industry that exists. So even if you are studying to be a nurse and you're not using technology every day in the way a technical person might, you have an understanding of how it could impact your day-to-day and hopefully be more problem solving in the way you approach your work as well. And the last example for us is in the UK. The University of Lincoln is one of our first customers that we worked with on this program, and they also recognized what the other two institutions they talked about did, which is technical skills are more important than ever, and certification is something that students can really put under their toolkit and make them employable as well. And they focused on Azure Fundamentals as a certification so that students had access to this too. What we saw from that is a lot of students felt that they learned a lot more. They felt as if they were ready to go into the workforce, or at least know where to start in that skilling journey to improve or stand out from the crowd. I won't go into this one too in depth, but you sort of see a running theme here, right? That technical skills and industry certifications really are supporting students to become more employable and making them more, impactful citizens in the world today. Great, and so I'm going to move on to probably one of my favorite things, just to mention them, is Imagine Cup Junior and Imagine Cup. So the stuff I talked about before really is from a curriculum perspective. So how, as an institution, can you start to integrate these things into your courses, into your diplomas to support learning and also improve your teaching? Some of those things are also direct to students. So a student can just go to Microsoft Learn if they want. But once you've learned all of this content, how do you then apply it? And I think that's where Imagine Cup comes into play. So we have two competitions. The first one is Imagine Cup Junior, which is for students 13 to 18. And this is where we really introduce them to basic concepts of artificial intelligence and this idea of AI for good. So how do they use artificial intelligence to benefit society and have a positive impact to those around them? I also just realized I'm not properly presenting, so I do apologize. So there's 4 categories here, which is AI for Earth, AI for cultural heritage, accessibility, and humanitarian action. So this is going to be the 3rd time we run it in January 2022, so do watch this space. But what we do provide is a series of educator guides, student guides, and PowerPoint lessons that you as an educator can adopt, actually teach this content to your students in the classroom, and then those students build or I guess come up with a concept around AI to solve a problem that we have today. So they're not building anything technically, but they're really conceptualizing a solution to a problem, which I think is a very easy way for us to engage students in cloud and what's happening in the world around us today. Then how do we take it up a notch? And this really is our flagship event across the company, but also externally among students. I have to say we don't really do a lot of marketing around this, but students all know about this competition. It's through word of mouth, and we get so much engagement from some of the more remote places on the planet, like Kenya. So you never know what can happen with this competition. It's so accessible, but it's already kicked off. Registrations are open today. So it's a little bit different to our Magic Cup Junior competition, where you actually come up with a business concept, a product concept, you pitch it, you develop it, you actually build it. So this is where Azure for Students comes in really handy, where you can build your solution on the cloud and actually change it, get feedback, and it's really a reiterative process, and we encourage students to have mentors that can guide them. And then once they submit their idea and their presentation, they go into a series of finals or competition rounds. And those are judged by local teams, by international teams within Microsoft, and if they make it all the way to the world finals, they're really competing on the world stage. We stream that event. It's sometimes a live event in person, pre-COVID. And the teams that win get a mentoring session with our CEO, Satya Nadella. They get $100,000 as a cash prize, and just so many amazing opportunities that come out of this. And I actually had friends from university who went on to the finals in Seattle a few years ago, which is just crazy to think that someone I'm from New Zealand, so someone in my own backyard made it all the way to Seattle for this global competition. One thing I would like to also share is around how schools can incorporate this. So I've been working with a few universities who wanted to use Imagine Cup as their project for their course. So one university in New Zealand in particular, they said, okay, our students need to work on an app or a solution. We're going to support them with the reiterative process and the feedback loop and everything, but their project that they create, they're going to be submitting that into Imagine Cup as part of the schooling experience. So there's so many ways to incorporate these different things into the classroom. And then lastly, really is CareerCoach. So let me just click to the live clickable demo. So CareerCoach is a new solution for us this year, and I guess the easiest way to describe CareerCoach for me is bringing access to LinkedIn into Microsoft Teams for a student, and then also using it as a tool to identify their career path, where they can increase their skills and to become more employable. So I'll walk through the demo and you'll get a gist of how this actually works. But this is available to all higher education institutions, and we do have academic pricing, etc. So cool. So I'll pretend you're a student. I'm Anna. I want to study biology or whatever it is. So CareerCoach has been given to me access-wise through my institution. And so when I click on it, and you can see it's in a Teams environment here, I'll click through. Great. I'm going to select my area of study, which in this case would be biology. I'm going to select my current school year, which would be first year in this example. And this is where they ask you to upload your resume or transcript. So I'm going to just go ahead and upload my CV. And this is where you start to select what skills you currently have. And this is an important bit because what you'll start to see is LinkedIn takes all of this information and CareerCoach takes all of this information and then spits out useful suggestions for the student later on. Then I start to select which skills that I don't have but I'm interested in, which is scientific computing, animation, analytical reasoning, etc. I then click next, and then it says, let's set up your profile, let's get to work and explore your goals. So I'll go to my dashboard, and under my dashboard, I can decide what my goal is, and my goal really is to start my career journey. So I click that, and then I select explore options to gain real world experience. And as I did mention at the start, this really becomes super important for employers today as students who have real world experience. So it takes me to the main page. At the top, you can see opportunities such as internships, co-ops, volunteering, or professional groups that students can access or connect with in LinkedIn. You also see underneath that my university's offers as well. So as an institution, you can list hackathons, career services, competitions that you want students to see under their dashboard. And then if I explore career options further, I can click on filter, select which industry I'm interested in, companies I might be interested in, and skills. And then once I've done that, I've selected all the things I wanted to, I can actually save my career. And here you can see I chose to look at business strategy analyst as my chosen career path. And it says review your skills. So we go through this, it shows me everything that I have that I selected, and then everything I'm interested in. And so then what it does really is it goes, okay, well, these are the things you're interested in. This is the career path you want to do. So these are suggested courses we recommend you taking in order to gain those skills. And you can see here there's an introduction to statistics that's provided by my university, but there's also a LinkedIn course around data visualization. And then right at the bottom, you can see 2 courses on Microsoft Learn that we have available. So if I keep going, you can also search for various skills or courses as well at the top. And then that will also allow you to filter where you want to see recommendations from. So you can see here we've got courses or skill programs from my university, LinkedIn Learning, Microsoft Learn, certifications, or any other M365 training that we have available for students as well. And this is where it starts to get really interesting and I guess more typical of LinkedIn is, as a student, I want to know, okay, well, who in my network at my university or who are alumni now are in the business field that I'm interested in. So what CareerCoach does is it takes a lot of that alumni data or that alumni network and feeds it into the solution to support students. So you can see here, I'm going to select and filter for people across a relative industry I'm interested in, company, location, etc., and apply. And then it goes, great. We suggest Konstantin Bukowski. He's a senior business analyst. So as a student, I can go, okay, I want to really understand how did Konstantin get to where he is, and what is the experience and the history he has that maybe I should follow or should consider when trying to attain that job as well. So when I click through him, I can actually see his profile, and you have the option to connect. So in the same way that you would go to linkedin.com and connect with people that you come across through LinkedIn, you can actually do that through CareerCoach as well. And then lastly, because it's integrated into Microsoft Teams, what we see a lot of customers doing and schools doing now is having a separate Teams channel to discuss careers within their team. So here you can see the biology student group, and they've added a channel around careers in biology, and this is where they share resources, anything they want to talk about across CareerCoach as well. So we really try to make it as interactive as possible for students across their university experience. So that's just the last thing I really wanted to share, and I apologize I talked without stopping for 30 whole minutes, so I do hope everyone was able to follow along. But are there any questions on this or anything I've talked about so far?
Hi, Anna.
Hi.
The one question that I could think of is how can I get, as an institution, how can I advertise so that we are being used as the educational choice?
Sorry, could you reiterate that question?
No, the challenge right now is that when my students come in, I want to make sure when they want to choose collection time, they are led back to our school to provide that training. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's where in CareerCoach, the institutions have the ability to load a course catalog and make sure that there's tagging associated to that. So we have a few customers going through the trial experience now, and what they're doing is uploading relevant courses that they want to promote to students and help students identify. And in that process, they allocate specific tags that will align to when students search and also relate back to relevant careers. So that's how we encourage that feedback, I guess that 360 back to the institution is for the option to upload your own courses that will be promoted on the platform.
Yes, that's very important.
Great. Any other questions?
We have another question. Are there any charge for CareerCoach?
Yes, so there is a charge. I think off the top of my head, it's $1 per license per month. But obviously, we, as any kind of solution, we have academic pricing or discounting available, and that really is at the discretion of the local subsidiary. So if you are interested, what I recommend is looking at the trial, and you can activate the trial for 90 days. And I think that's across about 30 or so students from memory. So you can actually test it, do it with a pilot group of students, see if they get the benefit from it. And then if you're interested in exploring pricing further, you can connect with your local Microsoft Education team who can work with you on that pricing element. So the price I quoted is basically our, I think, RRP, but there are potential options to make that pricing cheaper depending on licensing and other things.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
So earlier you were talking about the different training that is provided in part of the Microsoft Learn. Can you give some examples of some of them, some of these courses, so that the education can know in terms of how they would fit into the curriculum that they are doing? Yeah.
Definitely. I am actually working with one institution in Singapore in particular. I won't say which, as it hasn't been publicly announced, but they have been looking at a few diplomas across artificial intelligence and engineering, business analytics and data under their IT school. So they approached us and said, well, how do we incorporate Microsoft industry certifications, but also technology skills from the Microsoft platform into our course, so that when students go through that diploma, they gain the skills and get credit for it through that experience. So what we did with them is really understood what their goals were, how many students they wanted to train, how they wanted to teach their students, and we mapped that to the right certification offering. And in this instance, there were two. For the AI diploma, it was for AI fundamentals. So how do we introduce the core concepts around artificial intelligence to students, and then getting them building simple solutions and ideating. So that certification made a lot of sense, but also there was a practical component as well as a theory component to the content. And so they're looking at training their educators to be able to teach that and support students across that that series of lessons and then prepare them for the certification. Obviously, certification is not compulsory. You can just take the content and use it and teach it as you wish, but the option is there to actually prepare students for that certification component. The other diploma they looked at was business analytics. So they looked at Power BI. So how do they equip students with the data analytics tool, and how do they get them understanding data, coming up with ways to present that data and tell a story around it, And so they looked at our data analyst certification, and they've already had a number of students go through that exam and learn that within their class and receive credit for it as well. So yeah, there's just so many ways you can chop and change. Other examples which are not certification specific, sometimes we have institutions who have projects that they're working on for their students, and they want to teach specific things like cognitive services, how do you create AI chatbots, etc. So we have modules that are specifically just for those things with a practical component to it as well, that they can then recommend to their students as, out of class learning or homework that they need to do, or they use it as a lab during class time where they'll go down to the computer labs and everyone does that module together and they discuss and share ideas. So it's really flexible. We just really provide the Lego bits and you can really make of it what you want. And we are always really open to feedback. So a lot of the solutions we have today, it's been built off the back of educator feedback or student feedback directly. So we listen to that. We try to incorporate it. Doesn't always happen overnight, but we do really try to meet the needs of education institutions globally.
Fabulous. That's really exciting. Yeah. Because today I think everybody is rushing into the AI and analytic go rush. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. I can see so many schools offering that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you didn't ask this question, but I do sometimes get asked by schools, which is, if every institution is using this curriculum, what makes our institution different? And in many ways, yes, as more institutions start to adopt industry curriculum, whether it's ours or or other cloud companies, the idea is that we're all moving students along, regardless of which school that they go to. We really want to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. And I think where we continue to emphasize that differentiation factor for schools is, how do they really make it relevant for the student? Because we provide the technology platform and the resource, but the institution really packages it together and helps the student to then apply that in a context, whether that's a industry project, maybe you're working with census data, whatever it is. I think what the institution does is wrapping it all into something that's really cohesive with the rest of the course, and showing students that the skills that they learn really link through to employability outcomes.
So I take it there will be some sort of a profit sharing scheme, or it's a fixed price per user for this kind of course. Yeah. Actually,
all our stuff is free. The only thing that I talked about that wasn't free is CareerCoach. That's a paid solution, and certifications. So everything that's on Microsoft Learn, our Azure for Students offer, Imagine Cup, all of that is free. Our training resources are free for educators. So the only thing that costs anything really is CareerCoach, which needs to be budgeted for, and then certifications. So if you as an institution want to provide certifications to your students, we have academic volume licensing that you can purchase as an institution, and this is significantly cheaper than the price of the certification in the public environment. So you're looking at anything from 50 to 90+% off the original price, depending on the certification, and obviously depending on the number of exams that you wish to purchase for your students. So we make that available, but those are the only two things that cost. Otherwise, everything else is free.
Not free. It's an investment for Microsoft to the future of the students. Yeah,
correct.
Free is always considered as cheap.
Free for the institution as a consumer of these programs.
Yes. Okay, please continue. Yeah. Any other questions so far? Anybody? So if someone is interested, how do they get started?
Yeah, the first place I would recommend is going to Microsoft Learn. So if I just quickly share my screen again, this would be the easiest place to go. Is under Microsoft Learn, you can select your role. If you're a student, obviously you can go to the student page, which is here. But if you're an educator, you can click here. And if you're interested in going, okay, well, I want to teach some of this content in my course, I would suggest actually signing up for what we call the program here. This will take you to accessing content around our different certifications that you can just download for free, look through the resources, etc. That's probably the easiest way to get started if you're interested in exploring what curriculum and resources we do have available. Otherwise, you can reach out to me, anna.lim@microsoft.com, and I can definitely direct you in the right place, whether that's the local education team who can support you, or to the right resource or page that you can get started at.
And excellent. Yep.
Great.